the right, Aaron on the left. Amulet Titan versus Infect. And like I said, Ross has to be sweating this matchup a little bit. As far as main deck interaction, you're mostly looking at Engineered Explosives, Pact of Negation, winning. That's the form of interaction, I guess.
Yeah, it's funny. You had asked how important is play draw. If this is the format where it's just two ships passing in the night.
Huge. It's huge in this matchup.
Yeah.
Both players doing their thing on turn one. Aaron starting off with Glistener Elf. Has that infecting attacker ready to go right off the bat. Meanwhile, on Ross's side, Once Upon a Time. It's crazy that here's a free cantrip going 5 cards deep, and it seems like the least of the problems right now. Just do it. It's fine.
It is a ridiculous card. Each of these players showing up with Once Upon Their Time in their deck.
Yeah, and I love this pickup for Erin Barich. She's correctly identified that this is a huge get for Infect, and I think this is one of these slower adoptions we've seen. The decks that scooped up Once Upon a Time early, it was Amulet Titan, it was Tron. Now maybe we're starting to see a mistake. Neoform, I think another deck that really looked to leverage it very quickly, and not quite as quickly adopting was Infect. But now you see Erin Barich. Think of her as like the master of this archetype. Certainly no one has put up more top-notch results in recent years than Aaron with Infect. She's playing the 4 full copies.
And Aaron didn't just like move in real quick here, so I don't think that this is a turn 2 kill, but I can't imagine it's not a setup to be a turn 3 kill. I think Ross has to know almost every time he's going to be dead on turn 3. So I
don't know, Craig. I heard this was a turn 4 format. With these two decks that can both kill you on turn 2, staring down each other.
Yeah, it's just so important that Ross knows that he needs to get something in front of this elf or get it off of the board, next turn.
I am quite sure Ross is aware of the peril he's presently facing. We are going to have a deck tech with Erin later on in the day. She'll let us know exactly what she was thinking with this particular version of the archetype. Just going to be a follow-up 2-drop here. Blighted Agent is the play. Now Ross has a second Amulet in hand, and that's how you can really go off with Amulet Titan.
Yeah, this is potentially the hand.
Ross is going to play it. Does he has the bounce land. Does he have the Azusa? He's got the Summoner's Pack too. I think Ross is actually going to win this turn.
We're going to do it?
Prediction. I think so.
Ross has that little smile.
If he has either Primeval Titan or Azusa in hand, he's got it because he's got a Summoner's Pact. So here's our first bounce land play. That is going to make a bunch of mana. 4 mana floating. Two and 2. Gonna spend 3 of it. Azusa.
Yep.
2 more land drops in the bank. This one's over, Craig.
I think you're right.
Ross just going through the motions now. Gonna make 8 mana. 4 mana from that first play. 4 mana from the second play. Now this assumes Ross doesn't have key components in hand, which is always a possibility.
Yes. Yeah, if you've drawn certain lands, then you can't find them and have them untap.
He's also got
with the Titan.
He's got second pack too. That makes it almost certain. Regardless, I mean, he would have to have a very specific combination of cards in his hand for this not to be lethal. 3 mana floating. Ross going to get some more lands. If the Slayer's Stronghold is in hand, then he could be foiled, but I don't think it is. I think I've seen it in the deck as he passes through.
What a ridiculous format.
Yeah, gonna make 6 more mana.
Yeah, it's the Slayer's Stronghold and the Boros Garrison that are the important ones.
Yep. Bounces that Talaria West. Back to hand. Does have another Summoner's Pact. Transmutes Talaria West. Ross right now crossing his T's, dotting his I's. I have a feeling this Talaria West is going to get like Pact of Negation. Yeah, I mean, Ross doesn't even know what he's getting that for. He just has this much luxury built into his hand. Gonna go get Summoner's Pact, another Primeval Titan. There's that Primeval Titan. Gonna go get 2 more lands. It's gonna be Slayer's Stronghold, Boros Garrison. I think you passed it, Ross. There's the Boros Garrison. There we go. He had the double strike land pulled to the front of his head. I was so afraid he was going to grab the wrong Boros land.
I think that was just for the shortcut when I attack. Right. I'm going to get this.
Right.
Yeah, but just
turn 2 kill.
He looks very pleased with himself there, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Who wouldn't, though?
Look, I mean, that's the dream. That's why you play Amulet Titan, because you have access to those type of plays. And that's the thing I love about Amulet. I don't want to sit here and gush about Amulet for a half hour, as I often do when we have an Amulet player in the feature match area. But no matter how bad your matchup is, you have that out. And the percentage of those games happen, it's low. I mean, it's gotten better with Once Upon a Time.
It's gotten much better with Once Upon a Time.
But you always have that out, and it's nice to have when you're facing down one of your toughest matchups and when your back's against the wall. And Ross Merriam now up a game over Aaron Barich. We're going to start over on Aaron's side when we talk about sideboarding. There you see a big innovation, not only those 4 Once Upon a Time, but 3 Oko, Thief of Crowns in Aaron's sideboard, 3 Veil of Summer, 2 Ceremonious Rejection, 2 Nature's Claim, 2 Spell Pierce, 1 Grafdigger's Cage, 1 Spell Skite, and finally a Distortion Strike. What do you like doing if you're over on Aaron's side?
So when you play Infect, it's similar to playing Burn, where you don't want to over sideboard. You want to make sure you're executing your strategy as fast as possible every single game. Mm-hmm. So I wouldn't get too carried away sideboarding here. I think you bring in maybe 2 Spell Pierce, 2 Nature's Claim, and you're taking the Spell Skites out of your main deck, and you maybe shave your worst pump spell, and you go from there.
Any interest in the Oko here?
Oko is a tough one.
Turn 2 Oko, mitigating, especially on the play, mitigating an opponent's turn 1 Amulet, I think is pretty relevant.
So it can get Amulet. It's not so exciting against any of the creatures.
Right.
Because almost all of them have done their damage once it comes down. And Oko costs 3 mana, right, which is, you just saw Aaron lose on turn 2.
Yeah.
So that's another reason not to have Oko in the deck.
Yeah, very true.
So I don't think I want Oko in the deck for this matchup.
Okay. Meanwhile, over on Ross's side, we were looking at 2 Disdainful Stroke, 2 Dismember, 2 Tireless Tracker, 2 Oko Thief of Crowns, an Engineered Explosives, a Cavern of Souls, Field of the Dead, Ghost Quarter, Radiant Fountain, 1 Ramunap Excavator, and finally a Force of Vigor. What are you doing if you're on Ross's side?
So it's interesting seeing so many lands in Ross's sideboard.
I love this setup. It's so contemplative of the addition of Once Upon a Time.
Sure. Well, but it also speaks to all the deck building restrictions where you want a lot of these cards in your deck, mm-hmm, but there's not room to do everything else you want to do in your main deck.
Right.
And I think it's just smart to have them in your sideboard. A lot of people would be like, all right, what are the 3 worst lands? What don't I want for the metagame right now? And they just wouldn't have access to them at all. Mm-hmm. And they would have more sideboard cards, so to speak.
Yeah, I mean, these lands are problem solvers. They deal with whatever ails you. They really have such versatility in this deck.
I like that they're in there. For Ross, in this type of matchup, I'm bringing in the 2 Dismembers. I'm bringing in the Engineered Explosives. Oko is a weird one where it's like maybe if I'm on the play, I can play this card, but if I'm on the draw, I just don't want it in my hand.
Right.
So just some real light sideboarding, and you mulligan aggressively.
Yeah, one of the things I like about Oko is it's a bit of a hedge where you don't know what your opponent's doing exactly in post-board configurations, but given the way Infect plays its game, it's unlikely that Oko gets a ton of utility against most of the setups.
Sure.
That Infect is likely to have.
The Ghost Quarter is coming in.
Yes, it is.
For sure.
Yeah. Well, we spent the early part of this round talking a bit about Pioneer. If you're hungry for Pioneer games, I know they're playing over on Versus Live every Tuesday, Thursday, 1 p.m. Eastern. You can see Ross Merriam taking on Corey Baumeister in most configurations, though sometimes special guest is thrown into the mix there. Check that out right where you're watching this tournament today, twitch.tv/StarCityGames. It's like Aaron on a mulligan this go-around, headed down to 6. Ross keeping 7 there. You see Oko.
Okay.
How do you feel about that, Craig Kremp-Elks?
Well, it looks like he has an Amulet of Vigor as well, so he's going to be able to play that Oko on turn 2 most of the time. And
is that good enough?
Well, it's a sweet spot to be in.
Yeah.
Because like I said, I don't think turn 3 Oko is where you want to be in this matchup.
Mm-hmm. Aaron pulling out a new 7, trying to configure a good 6 for this matchup. I think she just wants to go fast.
Oh, for sure.
She's just like Sonic the Hedgehog in this matchup. Got to go fast.
Yeah, obviously you want as many cards as possible when you're trying to put together 10 Infect, but being able to mulligan, especially with the new mulligan rule, is just so nice. You just always end up with interactive hands. You always get to play Magic.
But a retrospective on the new mulligan rule. We're a few months in now. Thumbs up from you? I think it gets a big thumbs up from me.
It does get a thumbs up from me. I kind of wish a way a lot of Magic gets played was more interactive.
Mm-hmm.
So like the good decks still mulligan and they're just so good. You know what I mean?
I think the rule is fine, but it's being tested by some of the present cards that are seeing a lot of play. Things like Once Upon a Time to set up your turn 1 accelerant. Oko on Moles to 5 over and over and over. That is frustrating. I will give you that. But I think that's more about the cards in the format than the rule itself. Turn 1 Hierarch for Aaron. Turn 1 Amulet for Ross. And Aaron just going to ship the turn back. Ross takes his draw trepidatiously.
Yeah, I think he was just taking a second to mull over what the opponent could be doing this turn.
A little thinking. Knows Aaron is on a mulligan 2-6. So I wouldn't say something like Counter Magic is particularly forecasted here. Could just be a weaker hand.
Yeah, I think you still consider something like Spell Pierce as a possibility, and you ask yourself, can I play around this or not right now?
Yeah, Ross is going to have to think about that. Does have access to Oko if he wants to take a shot at it. Is going to play Breeding Pool and play Ancient Stirrings. Not going to get super aggressive here.
And Ross is on the newest iteration of this deck that plays lots of forests in order to leverage Castle Garenbrig.
Yeah, as well as Field of the Dead, another important addition. Now we have 2 forests, 2 snow-covered forests.
Hate it.
Sorry, Craig. Here to stay.
How are those 2 different cards?
I don't have an answer for you. Blighted Agent is the play from Aaron.
You know, if I ask you, what are the 5 different basic lands?
Forest, snow-covered forest.
Yeah, this is exactly the problem.
Mountain, snow-covered mountain. Plains.
Wow, you didn't even include a single island in your list.
Yeah. You only gave me room for 5.
Got him. Backed him into a corner there.
Ross with access to 4 mana this turn, potentially. Going to go ahead and play Breeding Pool, or excuse me, play Simic Growth Chamber, bounce Breeding Pool, and now we're going to take a shot at Oko. He says, who you trying to get crazy with, SA? Don't you know I'm Oko? Little Cypress Hill shout out. All the Cypress Hill heads out there. Those still exist?
Did you grow up with a lot of Cypress Hill in your life, Brian?
I absolutely did.
Nice.
We're about the same age, Craig. You're telling me Cypress Hill wasn't an important part of your life?
Oh, and Aaron's saying,
yeah, just going for it here.
I've got this.
Oko was shut down by a blossoming defense, Vines of Vastwood, and the beats come quick. Ross Merriam soundly thumped by Aaron Barich and Infect.
Yeah, and this was my problem with Oko, right? Like, it didn't help him execute his game plan.
Did nothing. Did stone nothing.
Well,
got him killed, in fact.
But potentially, it could have burned up one of Aaron's pump spells. The blossoming defense is no longer +2 on Aaron's own turn.
Right.
But really, so much of the time when that card comes down, Aaron's going to have mana up because she's on the play.
Yeah.
And she's already deployed her threats, and then she can protect them, etc.
No, damage to spare there. Well, if you want to relive this tournament, once it has concluded, just go back, watch all of Craig and I's monologues throughout the day. You can, of course, head over to our YouTube page, youtube.com/StarCityGames. Of course, there's the Versus Live archives there. You see all that stuff. Commander Versus, flashbacks, best of the SCG Tour, and so much more. Subscribe today, youtube.com/StarCityGames.
I like to think of us as a team.
Yeah, we're an efficient squad, Craig.
So we'll call it a dialogue.
You left my my Cypress Hill joke out there to just die, so I'm a little upset with you right now. But
I am not a big...
You really didn't listen to any Cypress Hill? Dr. Green Thumb?
Was insane in the brain?
That's what that quote is from.
Yeah, okay. Well, that's... I'm sorry.
Okay.
We're going to have to move past this.
I don't know. I've seen Cypress Hill in concert multiple times.
Wow.
Yeah. They were one of the openers for like Rock the Bells Festival down on Randall's Island in New York City.
Look at you.
Yeah, caught them there.
We had different childhoods.
This wasn't that long ago, actually. It really should be.
Oh, that's
This is
funny.
probably like 2005, 2006.
Not that long ago, he says.
Well, yeah, time is getting weird for me at this age, right?
Only 15 years ago.
Well, no, but I wasn't a child at that point. I was like 24 years old at that point.
Listen, I was a child in my mid-20s.
Okay, no, that's a good point. I will concede that. The fact that I was spending my time at Cypress Hill concerts very much points to the fact that I was still a child.
There's some evidence there.
Yes. Very good point. Players shuffling up for game 3 here. Ross Merriam says, I'll take one of those turn 2 kills. That was pretty good. Can we do that again? Not the most interactive games of Magic being played here.
No, they're not, but that's exactly why Aaron showed up with Infect, right?
Sure.
Like, she wants these types of matchups all the time, even more so against the Wurza decks.
Yeah. I think you are exactly right.
Infinite life, you say?
Yeah, not going to get the job done against Infects.
Poison you.
Get poisoned. Pretty glad there's no infecting going on in Pioneer. There's Electrostatic Pummeler and Teamer Battle Rage. You can team that squad up if you want. I've seen some of that happening.
Get a little energy going.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny because energy was... in its time in Standard, it was a little too good. Mm-hmm. A lot of those cards getting banned. But not quite good enough to break into, a bigger format like Modern.
I think it's right on the cusp in Pioneer.
So Pioneer might be that sweet spot.
Yeah, you see a lot of folks trying to make it work. Pretty decent hand from Ross here. You see Sakura Tribe Scout, Amulet, and of course Summoner's Pack. That'll transition into a Primeval Titan nicely.
Yeah, he just doesn't have any of the Karoo lands, does he?
Right.
And those are just so important.
They are. They are. Ross is going to have a think about this one. Sunhome in hand, too. That's not ideal.
And looking at his hand, this is the I'm going on turn 2 type of hand.
Is going to keep. And is going to go ahead and lead with Sakura Tribe Scout.
So if you're trying to do something big on turn 2, maybe turn 3, it doesn't give you a lot of draw steps to draw that Karoo.
You are correct. Here's Once Upon a Time from Aaron. Going to grab Noble Hierarch, and the quality of Aaron's hand just improves so dramatically at no cost. Card is so good in this deck. The other sweet thing about Once Upon a Time and Infect benefits a lot from leaving open mana and not necessarily spending it.
Yeah.
So when you attack, you want to have the threat of Pump Spell, but you don't always want to go for it. In fact, you usually want to play as slow as you possibly can, as safely as you possibly can. Once Upon a Time does something to fill in the gaps of that strategy. You leave up mana on a turn, you're able to convert Once Upon a Time on end step to another Inkmoth Nexus, a Noble Hierarch. So many different strategic possibilities with the card.
It is an impressive card.
In the same way, Ross, we mentioned, needs a Karoo here. If he draws Once Upon a Time, it basically functions as another look.
Oh, yeah.
Reason both players picking up 4 copies here. Reason you should get your copies today. Why not go to StarCityGames.com? That was an unplanned ad. We'll squeeze it in. I don't care.
Look at you.
That's why they pay me the big bucks around here, Craig. Drop ads when you're not even expecting them.
Dude, when your Christmas bonus rolls around, I'm going to remind them about this.
Right, remember this moment.
Oh, geez, 2.
Double Amulet, and that means if Ross finds this bounce land, things are going to get out of hand for Aaron real quick. Aaron, for her part, would love to just kill Ross right now. I think that's unlikely. I would go as far as to say it's very unlikely.
It is, especially Ross, I'm sure, is more than willing to block with his little 1/1 right now.
Absolutely. God, Once Upon a Time also fuels your delves for your Become Immense.
Yep. But it's expensive. It costs you 0 mana to do that.
Such a huge cost.
It's okay, though, because other spells with an alternative cost of 0 mana haven't ever been a problem.
Right, they've all been fine.
They haven't needed to be banned.
Here's Might of Old Krosa on that Glistener Elf. Aaron going to go ahead and attack with this 5/5. Like you said, I do think Ross very incentivized to block here.
Oh,
the little shift.
Yeah, the little adjustment in his seat, saying, "Ooh, this could be a big one."
I think Ross let it through. Yeah, it would take 2 spells to get dead there, and one would have to be a free one, Mutagenic Growth. How many copies of Mutagenic Growth? I would assume the full 4. Don't know that, though.
Let's take a look here.
Is it 0? Is it 0 copies of Mutagenic Growth?
It's looking like 0.
Wow.
That's a surprise.
I am surprised. Don't get me wrong. I trust Aaron's opinion over my own, for sure. There's a reason she's doing that. But I am surprised. There you see that Infect counter popping up over Ross's head. 5 Infect now. I'm assuming didn't find the bounce land because he would just be slamming it. Here's Ghost Quarter. 2 cards in hand, 1's a pact. Just passes the turn. Back to Aaron. Now this turn is scary for us.
Yeah, there's a lot of big cards here.
Here's an untapped Breeding Pool. Noble Hierarch. Tax time. 2/2 Glistener Elf. Ross didn't block again? Is that accurate? I saw him reach for the pad.
Yeah, we'll find out for sure. It's kind of interesting because, you know, he wasn't dead last turn. There wasn't that extra pump spell last turn.
Right. The scenario has changed pretty dramatically, though. Extra mana. It sounds like we're still in the pre-block stage.
Okay.
Let's not get ahead of ourselves. Ross is having to think, though. I mean, you understand why. That Sakura Tribe Scout be very important to actually killing Aaron should he draw the bounce land on this next turn.
What? Would it?
Yes, because you probably have to get a rebuy on that Sun home, I'm thinking.
Okay, sure. 2, 4, 5, 6.
Maybe not. I mean, there might be workarounds, but...
I was going to say, he has access to so many lands at this point.
Yeah. Depends a lot on what the last card in his hand is. The last unknown. Oh, it's a Dismember. Okay. We're going to fire that one off here.
Yeah. And this makes a Karoo that much more important because he, two single, the last card in his hand wasn't a mana.
Right.
And then he can't draw another mana and still tutor up a Titan and cast it.
Right. This is actually one of the rare situations where he wishes Ghost Quarter found a tap land. It's kind of wild. Ross takes a draw here.
Maybe a Castle Garenbrig?
Yeah, that's what it looked like to me. It is.
That is just huge.
Has to attempt the Summoner's Pact now.
Oh, Aaron, do we have a Spell Pierce?
She would slam.
Yeah, now's the time.
Okay, we're going to fetch.
And it's the Spell Pierce.
Yeah, that's huge.
Yes. Ross is in this awkward spot where I think he has to pay for this.
Absolutely has
and
to.
Get a stinky chump blocker, but the next turn he's got to pay for the pact.
Yeah. That's not great.
Yeah, love the Spell Pierce here.
Yeah, perfect timing. I think that's the thing people often miss about Spell Pierce. You don't need to actually counter the spell. You just need to mess up timings a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, this Spell Pierce is like 2 time walks.
And old Ross is just going to get the Titan. Going to play Castle Garenbrig. Pass the turn back.
Yeah, he's saying, I'm not even bothering with the chump blocker. I'm either dead or I'm
Aaron's
not.
just going to show a bunch of pump spells, and that is going to get the handshake. Aaron Barich takes down Ross Merriam.
And you see him pointing like, I this, I that, and like,
yeah.
one Karoo, and it's just